order to make the Nutcracker Mouse Ornament, you will need a wooden sled ornament, and this one measures 9 centimeters high by 5 centimeters wide. You're going to need an embroidery hoop that is at least 4 inches. You'll need some fabric, and this is 28 count, and it's an oatmeal color. So you're going to be stitching some white on it, so you want to make sure that it's darker than a white fabric. So for this one I chose this oatmeal color. You're going to need some ribbon. Doesn't really matter what kind of ribbon you have, but it just needs to be thin enough so it can go around the edge of the ornament sled. You're going to need your pattern, so you can print that off, and I'll link it down below to where you can get the PDF pattern. You're going to need some felt, and it needs to be the same size as the sled because you're going to cut around the sled. And you're going to need the same size of, this is sort of a very thin cardstock kind of paper. And then you're going to need your embroidery floss from the pattern. Everything will be listed in the legend on the pattern. So you get all those embroidery threads, and you'll need an embroidery needle. The first step in stitching your Nutcracker Mouse is to find the center of your pattern. Over on the chart here, you'll see a triangle at the top and a triangle at the side, and those points mark the center of your pattern. So you'll follow along and you'll find the center stitch, and I like to put a little mark or circle the center stitch so I know which one I'm starting with. And then you'll go over to your fabric and your hoop, and you do the same thing and find the center of your hoop. And I do that with a tape measure, and this is a 4-inch hoop, so I'll find where the center of that is, and then I use my needle just to stick it in at the 2-inch mark, and then I'll go across this way and again find where the center is there. So I'll probably have to move it over just a little bit, and there is the center of the hoop, and that's where you're going to start your stitching that you marked here on your chart. So wherever that is, you're going to begin, and this is 28 count fabric, and I'm working it with 1/1, which means 1 strand of embroidery floss. So you would pull it apart and get the 1 strand. Well, first you're gonna pull out a thread, or a length of floss, usually about 18 inches, but whatever's comfortable for you. And then you're gonna separate 1 strand out of those. There's 6 strands in each length. So you're gonna separate 1 strand out, and then it just goes stitched 1/1 square. So it makes a very small size that will fit on your ornament here. And so once you're finished the entire pattern, I'll come back and I will show you how to assemble that into the ornament on the sled. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to trace the sled onto your piece of cardstock and just trace around it. And then you're going to cut it out. Check to see that it fits properly. You don't want it to be hanging over the edge of the sled at all. You want it to be just slightly smaller than the width of the sled. Then you're going to use that piece to cut around on your piece of felt. And then you're going to use your cardboard piece as a guide and cut around your stitching, leaving about an inch of overlap. So now the next step is to use some white craft glue and just glue your piece of felt to your cardboard piece. And this will just give some nice padding behind your cross stitch piece. So now you're going to look from the front and try and feel around and make sure you center your cross stitch on the cardboard piece. It helps, you can hold it up to a light and you can see the shadow of the cardboard behind, and that will help also with the proper placement. And then you just take your glue stick and put some glue on the side and fold it over. I like to do the side and then the top, and then work at adjusting the corners around. Actually, I'm doing both sides first. And then just sort of try and pinch in the corners. And then you can press around on the cardboard to sort of fold it over if there's any sharp points at the top there where the curve is. You can check it on the sled if there's any parts of the curves that need a bit of rounding, and you can just press on it to round it out. Then take your glue stick and put a line of glue around the sled. And some in the middle, and then attach your piece to the front. Then I like to take a couple books and put it on top and just leave that to dry for about an hour. Now you're going to put the ribbon on. Just take your ribbon and measure around the side of the sled so that it's long enough and overlaps a little bit. And then starting at the bottom in the center, take your glue gun and put some glue along in between the sled and your fabric, because you want your ribbon to lay over top of that so that you can't see the edge there. And then you're just going to put a little glue and that's it. You're all finished with your Nutcracker Mouse ornament.